The white ceiling was Michael's entire world now. Endless, oppressive white, just like the plaster encasing both his arms and legs. The car accident 2 days ago had left him completely immobilized, a prisoner within his own broken body, trapped in this sterile, silent private hospital room. He remembered fragments of the crash. The screech of tires, the sickening crunch of metal, the spinning, tumbling sensation, then nothing but pain and darkness. When he'd finally awakened, the doctors told him he was lucky to be alive. Lucky? Michael wasn't so sure. The room felt like an oven. Summer heat pressed against the windows, making the air thick and stagnant. Sweat beaded on his forehead, trickling down his temples, and he couldn't even lift a hand to wipe away the moisture. The ceiling fan spun lazily overhead, doing nothing but pushing around hot, stale air. The itching was maddening, everywhere. Under the plaster, across his skin, tiny, invisible insects seemed to crawl and dance. His left leg, encased in thick white plaster from hip to ankle, burned with an unreachable irritation. His right arm, bent at an unnatural angle, throbbed with a dull, persistent pain. He tried to shift, to move, but only managed a pathetic, barely perceptible wiggle that sent sharp pain shooting through his broken limbs. Where are the nurses? Earlier that morning, a nurse had been attentive, adjusting his pillows, checking his monitors. But now silence, complete and absolute. The call button hung just out of reach, a cruel taunt of potential salvation. Dangling maybe 6 inches from his outstretched fingers might as well have been 6 miles. His throat was dry, parched. He needed water. Desperately, the glass on the side table looked tantalizingly full, with a pale blue straw poking out. So close, so impossibly far. He tried to call out, but only a dry, rasping sound emerged. The room seemed to close in, the white walls becoming a suffocating box. His breath began to quicken, panic rising in his chest. And then he saw it. At first, just a dark movement at the edge of the bed, a shape, legs, so many legs, a spider, massive, impossibly large, crawling from the shadowed corner, moving with a deliberate, horrifying slowness across the pristine white hospital sheet. Michael wanted to scream, but only a strangled whimper escaped his lips. The spider moved closer, each leg placement precise, calculated. Its body was the size of his hand. No, larger, dark and hairy, with a bulbous abdomen that seemed to pulse with each movement. Crawling up the plaster of his immobilized leg. He could see every horrifying detail. The segmented legs, the multiple eyes that seemed to lock directly onto him. "Help!" he tried to shout, but it came out as a weak, broken whisper. Closer and closer the spider came. Michael tried to thrash, to buck, to do anything to dislodge the creature, but he was nothing more than a helpless, wrapped package. His movements were microscopic, ineffective. Sweat poured down his face, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might burst from his chest. The spider reached his chest, crawling, climbing, up his neck, across his chin. He could feel its legs. Tiny, precise, tickling, and finally reaching his agape mouth.